Hi, I'm Denise and I'm the therapist and founder of Infinite Hope Counselling. I wanted to come on and do a video for Sexual Violence Awareness Week. In my role, I am privileged to walk alongside many clients who've been both the victims and supporters of people who've experienced sexual violence. Often the trauma is so huge they don't feel in the beginning that if they speak out they will be heard or supported. Yet they're brave enough to pick up the phone, write an email, or reach out to begin to make sense of their trauma. To me, this week is vital to hopefully break down some of the barriers, stereotypes, and myths surrounding sexual violence, and to further encourage and hopefully support people to begin to process their trauma and find help. Each post will be different and will contain a trigger warning so that people can make the choice on whether to engage with them or not. At the end of this video, there will be a short slide with some helpline numbers where you can gain immediate support if you're in crisis or have just experienced sexual violence. We're still currently in a global pandemic, although things are changing daily. And I was really struggling with the idea that last year, despite several lockdowns, we as a country recorded the highest number of rape cases ever. This is really challenging to hear when we think about many freedoms that were lost, yet the trauma and tragedy of rape and abuse still continue to be rife throughout the country. Sexual violence isn't an easy topic to talk about, and often people are scared of offending or upsetting or having strong views on the subject. Therefore, often it's minimised and wrapped up as banter, or we make inappropriate innuendos to mask what we're really feeling. Often on social media, we see many reports of high-profile cases, and I was so saddened last year to see so many national cases of rape and sexual abuse, and in some cases murder. And if we think of things like the poor Sarah Everard case, that just wasn't something that happened in London. It was mirrored multiple times in the country. Although some victims weren't reported in quite such a high-profile way, there were still victims nonetheless. And that's really something I want to talk about. Who can be a victim of sexual violence? Often, when people reach out for support, the first thing they say to me is, I'm not sure if I've experienced rape or abuse or sexual violence. It was just one time. It was just touching. It was just this. It's not as bad as such and such as, way that they were attacked or abused. Anybody can be a victim of sexual violence. Sexual violence doesn't have to be prolonged. It doesn't have to be just once. It could be something that happened multiple times. It could be touching. It could be groping. It could be revenge porn. It could be photos. It could be anything. There's so many terms that come under sexual violence, and I would encourage you to have a look at what's out there in terms of support in your area. But I think we've got this really one-sided view at the moment, which is quite divisive, of what a victim is. Well, actually, any gender, any ethnicity, any religion, any age range can be a victim of sexual violence. Sexual violence is in every walk of life. And although we're not talking about it, and although we hide it, many, many people would have experienced sexual violence. I think the shocking statistic last year of the number of rape cases reported is even more shocking when we consider that many, many people, due to shame, minimisation and emotionally abusive relationships surrounding the sexual violence they've experienced, won't report what they've experienced to the police. So the true number must be staggering. Lots of people won't reach out for support because they feel like they will be told they have to report their abuse or trauma to the police. And this is not the case. There are certain exceptions to the rule with therapy, that if you were to name the person, Joe Bloggs, who lives at this place, then the therapist may have to break confidentiality, but there's many, many steps with many, many choices to go before that would be the case. It's really disheartening to see that the conviction rate for sexual violence continues to fall, even though the cases reported continue to rise. And it feels like sometimes this is a crime that goes unpunished. The victims are often left without a voice or a way to find steps forward into gaining back their life. Sexual violence doesn't just impact the victims, it impacts the people they support and their ability to have a normal life. It's something that always stays with you, and although processing your trauma and finding a way to speak out about what happened can help you heal from it, it's not always easy or possible to move past it. There's a really big myth that in therapy you're told you have to forgive your perpetrator, and that's not true. Forgiveness is not required, but I believe that by accessing therapy and taking the power out of the abuse or trauma you've suffered and giving it back to you in your hands so that you're in control of your life and where it moves forward next is so important. Through therapy and support, your trauma can become something that has happened to you and not rule your everyday life like it does when it first happens. As I said, at the end of this video, there will be some numbers of helplines you can reach out to gain support. But I really just want to say you don't have to be alone with your trauma, and there's many people who are here to help and support you. If you've been impacted by anything that's said today, please feel free to reach out and contact me to see if I can support in any way. It doesn't matter where you're from, what you look like, which religion you are, which sexual orientation you are, or your gender. Anybody can be a victim of sexual violence. And if you feel like this is something that's happened to you, or you know someone who's struggling with this, please reach out for support. Take care of yourselves.